Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the critical, high-stakes conditions of the male genitourinary system. We're going to cover the whole spectrum, from sudden, acute surgical emergencies involving the testes, right down to the chronic, slow-burn obstructions of the prostate. We'll be looking at the pathophysiology, how you actually nail down the clinical diagnosis, the potential complications, and of course, the surgical management of these really complex conditions. Let's get started.
You know, the human body is an absolute master of disguise, and honestly, nowhere is that more true than in the genitourinary tract. So we're going to answer this exact question by putting you directly in the shoes of the clinician. How do you actually tell the difference between a harmless passing ache and a catastrophic vascular cutoff? Well, we're going to figure out how to parse those subtle clues to effectively diagnose and manage these very distinct pathologies.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The ticking clock. Torsion. 2. Unmasking scrotal swellings. 3. The prostate slow squeeze. 4. Urinary retention and blockages. 5. Surgical solutions and risks. And finally, 6. Prostatitis, the inflammatory roadblock.
Let's jump right into section 1. The ticking clock. Torsion.
Imagine you're at a clinical fork in the road, right? A patient comes in with a hot, red, swollen scrotum. On one path, you've got testicular torsion. That is a sudden, agonizing twisting of the spermatic cord that completely cuts off the blood supply. It usually hits young guys, mostly between 11 and 30 years old. The testicle is incredibly tender, and it's often pulled way up high into a horizontal lie. Now, on the other path, epididymo-orchitis. This is an infectious inflammation, but it builds up way more gradually. It usually affects slightly older men, and it almost always comes along with urinary tract infection symptoms. You know, things like painful urination or constantly needing to go.
So here is the absolutely crucial point, that 6 to 8 hour window. That number isn't just some loose guideline, it is literally the lifeline of the tissue. If you can get in there, surgically explore, and untwist it within that time frame, the testicular salvage rate is a fantastic 90 to 100%. But if you delay the diagnosis and cross that 24-hour mark, that salvage rate plummets to near zero, and you're almost certainly looking at completely removing the testicle.
Because the stakes are just so incredibly high. And because it's honestly almost impossible to perfectly tell torsion and epididymo-orchitis apart clinically without time-consuming advanced imaging, the medical rule here is totally uncompromising. If there is even a shadow of a doubt about the diagnosis, you have to assume it's torsion and operate immediately. You just don't wait around for an ultrasound when the clock is ticking this loudly.
All right, moving on to section 2, unmasking scrotal swellings.
Now, unlike the huge, agonizing alarm bells of torsion, testicular tumors are incredibly sneaky. The absolute biggest red flag you need to look out for is a firm, irregular, and, this is key, painless swelling. Lots of times the patient just mentions a vague feeling of heaviness or dragging in the scrotum. And the demographics here are super specific. Teratomas typically show up in younger men, right around 18 to 30 years old. Seminomas, on the other hand, tend to pop up a bit later, usually between 30 and 45. And unlike torsion, where we rush straight to the OR blindly, here getting an urgent ultrasound is the absolute essential first step to confirm that solid mass before you do anything else.
Let's jump to section 3, the prostate's slow squeeze.
Shifting gears from the testes over to the prostate, we run into the main culprit behind lower urinary tract symptoms, or LUTS. It's a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. Now, unlike prostate cancer, which usually grows on the outer peripheral layer of the gland, BPH is this benign nodular growth of the inner transitional zone. It basically grows inward and just slowly strangles the urethra.
As that inner zone expands, it physically blocks the flow of urine, kind of like putting a massive kink in a garden hose. Patients have to deal with hesitancy, which is this agonizing delay just waiting for the flow to start. They'll have a weak stream and terminal dribbling, where they literally just can't stop cleanly. In really severe cases, they deal with strangury. That's a super painful, incredibly slow drop-by-drop flow. You add a nocturia where they're waking up endlessly all night to pee, and you can see how their quality of life just totally tanks. Okay, section 4, urinary retention and blockages.
Over the years, if that slow squeeze from BPH isn't managed, it can eventually lead to acute urinary retention. This is a uniquely painful medical emergency where the patient suddenly just cannot void at all. If you examine them, you'll find this highly tender, hugely distended bladder that's swelled up to hold roughly 600 milliliters of trapped urine, or sometimes even more. And that threatens a really dangerous pressure backup right into the kidneys.
So how do we fix it? Well, to manage this acute blockage, clinicians will actually try non-invasive sensory tricks first to try and trigger that voiding reflex. They'll give the patient some privacy, maybe turn on the sound of running taps, have them walk around a bit, or even suggest a hot bath. But if those tricks fail, the immediate medical fix is to catheterize the patient to mechanically drain all that trapped urine. And crucially, they'll immediately start them on an alpha blocker, like tamsulosin. That relaxes the smooth muscle of the prostate and significantly boosts the chances that the patient will be able to void on their own once that catheter finally comes out.
Let's look at Section 5, Surgical Solutions and Risks.
When medications like those alpha blockers just aren't cutting it anymore, we have to look at surgical decompression. And we basically have two main options here. On one side, you have the gold standard, TURP, or transurethral resection of the prostate. This literally shaves away the blocking prostatic tissue from the inside out. It's super effective, but it does carry a higher risk profile because you're actually destroying tissue. On the flip side is TUIP, transurethral incision of the prostate. This is way less destructive. It just involves making precise little incisions to kind of spring the prostate open and relieve that pressure. This one is usually the go-to for smaller prostates, under 30 grams, because it's way better at preserving sexual function.
Now, because TURP is a destructive procedure, getting informed consent means you have to be totally transparent about the surgical risks. We're talking about a roughly 10% estimated risk of post-operative erectile dysfunction and about an equal 10% risk for incontinence. There's also this rare but very serious risk called post-TURP syndrome. That's where the surgical washout fluid actually enters the bloodstream and causes dangerous hyponatremia or low sodium. And finally, retrograde ejaculation, which is where semen flows backward into the bladder instead of out, is a highly common expected outcome that patients absolutely need to understand before they go under the knife.
And finally, Section 6, prostatitis, the inflammatory roadblock.
Acute bacterial prostatitis is no joke. It's a severe, sudden infection that brings on a high fever, really intense pelvic or perineal pain, and a very real risk of septicemia if you don't treat it fast. When we look at the bacteria causing this, the data is pretty clear. 50 to 80% of these documented acute infections in the prostate are caused by E. coli. Another 10 to 15% come from other gram-negative bacteria, which means getting the patient on a targeted, long-course antibiotic therapy is absolutely vital for them to recover.
Now here is a massive clinical pearl for you. Doctors will sometimes use a prostatic massage to squeeze out fluid for diagnostic cultures when they're dealing with chronic, long-standing cases. But during an acute bacterial infection, no way. That maneuver is strictly forbidden. Massaging an actively inflamed, highly infected prostate carries a huge risk of pushing all those bacteria straight into the bloodstream. You could essentially trigger bacteremia and send the patient into potentially fatal septic shock. Just don't do it.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on genitourinary acuity, I want to leave you with this final thought. Whether you're dealing with the frantic 6-hour surgical deadline of testicular torsion, the totally silent progression of a seminoma, or the agonizing endpoint of a mechanically blocked prostate, the symptoms often look incredibly similar on the surface. But armed with the pathophysiological clues and clinical distinctions we just covered, how will you differentiate a minor passing annoyance from a looming surgical emergency? Thanks for exploring this with us, and always keep questioning what lies beneath the symptoms.